if you ever wanted to watch a movie and be weirded out by Samuel L. Jackson with long hair, this is the movie for you. We watched Quentin
Oh,
Tarantino's Jackie Brown,
I,
and this is Geeked Out.
Popcorn in our hands, ready for the show. From the classics to the blockbusters, we're always in the know. Throwing references like confetti, we keep it real. Geeked Out Podcast, we make you feel. We're the critics you can trust.
Welcome into another episode. My name is Kyle.
on here.
And as the fifth part of our underrated film series, we have decided to watch Juan's selection of Jackie Brown. This is a Quentin Tarantino written and directed movie. Written for the screen, I should say. It's I didn't even realize this, but this was based on a book called Rum Punch by an author named Elmore Leonard. Never heard of him. Never heard of the book.
Okay, me neither. That's an awesome name though, or like
Rum
author.
Punch.
Is
it
that-
has
is that
nothing
your
to
real
do with
name,
what
sir?
goes on.
Is that a real name?
it-
I never know. Rum Punch.
No. But oddly enough, this movie, and I was blown away when I saw this. This movie came out Christmas Day, 1997.
Oh,
As I said, it was written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. It stars Pam Grier, Samuel L. Jackson, Robert Forster, Robert De Niro, Michael Keaton, and Bridget Fonda.
oh, damn.
This cast is
Hey,
absolutely
hey.
stacked.
You're leaving one out who had a small role.
Oh, I haven't
Memorable.
gotten to him yet. Dude, we had 2/3 of the Friday cast in this movie.
And the cast is a tight cast. There's not
It's
not a big-
fantastic.
cast, right? So for that is pretty it's good.
This movie has a current rating of 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes, it is certified fresh with a critic rating of 88% and an audience rating of 85%.
Hmm.
It,
I agree with that.
It had an estimated budget of $12 million and worldwide box office of, hang on, my computer is acting up right now, of $39.6 million. Now, before
bad.
we get into it, I'll give a brief plot synopsis. This is pretty general and vague, but a flight attendant with a criminal past gets nabbed by the ATF for smuggling, and under pressure to become an informant against the illegal arms dealer she works for, she must find a way to secure her future without getting killed. Now, of course, that the lead character, the Jackie Brown of this movie, is Pam Grier.
Legendary.
I will say I
Hey.
don't have a lot of history with Pam Grier. I think I've only seen a couple films with her. And if there are more that I'm not remembering, they were
She ruled. Yeah, well, she ruled the 70s when it came to strong female leads in like the blaxploitation era of films. Like she has a number of them.
I did learn that when I did some
Some I
research
put
on
in
it.
my notes, but I do not have my notes here. But she you needed a strong female lead. She was probably top of the list. And she had a number of them for sure. And she just proved how strong of a lead she is in this movie. She's great.
I thought she was great in the movie.
Oh yeah, she's awesome. Most
She-
people probably are familiar with her because I remember when I was first introduced to her on an episode of Fresh Prince. That was probably a lot of people in the 90s around my age's first introduction if you didn't watch the 70s movies. And then I got introduced to her watching those movies after.
Well, you're never going to believe this, but would you like to guess where my first recollection of
Ooh,
ever seeing Pam Grier in a film? And I will give you a hint. The movie came out a year before this one did.
It's probably easy. I just can't think of it right now.
It's a movie that I would love to do on this podcast. It is a terribly made film, but it is so enjoyable to watch. And that is Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken in Escape from LA.
Oh, I ain't watched. My dad liked that movie.
Oh, dude,
I
that
remember
movie's
he watched
amazing.
it and liked it. They,
I-
oh my God!
So
Now,
I saw that
okay.
before
Every
I
time,
ever.
anytime. I'm sorry, but
No, I
anytime
saw that
anybody
movie
mentions that,
before. What?
is that surfing scene
Oh,
with
that's
what is it?
terrible. That's so
Paul
stupid.
Hogan, and they're like
No, it's
high
not
five.
Paul
Oh
Hogan.
my!
It's
Is it?
um
No, not Paul Hogan. The guy that I always
Peter
confuse.
Fonda.
Okay, yeah, they kind of look alike. That's why I kind of put those
Well, what's
two as the
American?
same
One's
group.
Australian.
I know, but they look alike
A little bit.
a little to me. They whatever. But yeah, that terrible CG.
No, I think the worst
Oh
CG
my
in that movie
God.
is when he's in the sub underwater. But irregardless, when I saw that movie before I ever saw Escape from New
Yeah,
York,
she wasn't that one.
and when you see him do it, when you see Kurt Russell like changing in the putting on his new gear, and you see the cobra tattoo on his chest from his stomach up to his chest. When I was a kid, for some stupid reason, I was like, "That's the coolest tattoo I've ever seen. I want to get exactly that when I grow up."
And the thing about it is, if you've seen Escape from New York, everything works. Like Kurt Russell works in that movie. Like you believe he's a badass. In Escape from LA,
Oh, he's still a badass.
he's still a badass, but like it seems the whole thing just seems like a parody of the first movie.
It is.
You know what I mean? And
It
I don't know if that
absolutely
was
is.
deliberate but I I went back and I rewatched some scenes not too long ago actually because I watch a podcast and they were covering that movie and Kurt Russell's just the way he's delivering those lines, man, with that like grizzled voice, that badass voice is just
It's almost like
you
a
just
harsh whisper.
you just can't take him serious.
Oh, I take
And
Snake
I
Plissken.
remember liking that movie back then. I remember liked it mostly because my father liked it, but
I always take Snake Plissken seriously.
and I do like Snake. I remember always liking him as a character, but revisiting Escape from LA was just like, oh, I don't remember his
Hands down,
I-
the basketball scene.
that.
That's all I will say.
Sure.
But anyways, we'll get back to this movie. So as I
Yeah,
said,
talk about
written
it.
for the screen, for Tarantino, directed by Tarantino. So therefore, it should come as no surprise, and surely didn't come as a surprise to me, that this movie opens on a close-up of Bridget Fonda's feet.
Yeah,
This man,
they're paying attention to the feet, especially in the
good
introduction
Lord.
of the character.
But you know what? Actually, I kind of caught, or I went a little too far ahead. I want to ask you.
And they were like,
I want to ask
what
you
was
about your experience with this movie. What you thought of it, your general.
Before I go on my rant on the feet scene there.
We'll go back to the feet in a minute,
Ugh.
but I want to know how you first came to this movie and your general thoughts on it.
I'm pretty sure it was a rental from Blockbuster, or either my father picked it up. You know, my father, he would come down because he lived in the States. He would come over to Canada, where I live, and he would bring movies, you know, usually that came out that week or that month or whatever was new. But either from Blockbuster or my father brought it. Either way, it definitely wasn't the theaters. I've been far too young. But I did watch whatever my parents watched, and they watched hella movies. So I had to have been from one of them watching it. I was about 10, what, 97? I was 10 years old.
Yeah, it came out in 97.
Yeah, I definitely remember watching it in 97. So either or. It was definitely a VHS.
Well, I will say that I had never seen this movie previous to this viewing.
Oh,
I've heard about it for years. I
Rotten
don't know why.
Tomatoes.
I don't know why I always thought that this movie was a lot older than it was. I thought this movie came out considerably before Pulp Fiction.
That makes sense.
When in reality this was his big follow up to Pulp Fiction.
The story is very inspired by the 70s.
It's inspired by Rum
Uh,
Punch.
well, yeah, that story, right? But like, I guess just the direction Tarantino went into kind of had that, was paying respect to, because I don't know how accurate the screenplay is with, Tarantino's direction and all that stuff. So, but yeah, if the way he wrote it is true, is how the movie turned out, it's definitely inspired by like 70s, specifically blaxploitation, like movies in general, and
Now,
a little bit of other genres too.
being that you've seen it before, have you always enjoyed it, or was it just kind of?
Yeah, it was always those movies I liked just because it was, the story is simple, but it's elevated by, like, everything that's in the movie, like the direction, the especially the acting, the actors. I think they just bring it to a level that makes it good. Like, if you can critique everything else, you're not going to overly critique the acting and the actors in this movie, and I think that's what I always appreciated about it.
You're right. I thought the performances in this movie were pretty stellar. Like Pam Grier, like you said, as a lead actress, a strong female lead, she did a fantastic job. She was able to convey. She conveyed toughness. She conveyed fear. Even like a soft, sensitive side. She conveyed all different aspects to her character, and you believed every single one of them, and you really felt for her, even though in the beginning of the
No,
movie she's still a criminal. I mean, she's
Mhm.
smuggling money, but you immediately feel for her because she's able to portray those emotions and get that across on the screen.
Yeah, and time and time again has proven that we as an audience do not mind sympathizing with our villains, even if they're bad people, if we can if we can sympathize with them.
I don't think that anybody would be sympathizing with Ordell, who's the character that Samuel
Oh,
L. Jackson plays.
no.
I don't know. So I don't remember. It's been quite a few years since I've seen Pulp Fiction. I would be willing to bet that he might say motherfucker in this movie more than that one.
It's You'd really have to have someone count.
Dude, I'm pretty sure
But
he's at 30 within the first 15 minutes.
yeah, man, I just loved everything he said in this movie, man. I know we were supposed to write down a favorite line, but I know one of my favorite lines would have been something he said for sure, man, because he's just brilliant. He's brilliant in this movie, man. And I think Tarantino definitely let the actors kind of mold their characters to their own. And I think that's kind of what Robert De Niro did.
Yeah.
But I just think he just let them kind of have fun with it. And I think it definitely shows with Samuel Jackson's performance, man, because it just seems like a lot of just him and a lot of things that he would say instead of things that were written down for him to say.
My one note on Samuel L. Jackson in this movie, and I kind of hit on it in the intro, is that fucking hair.
Yeah,
That was like when I first turned it on,
that was silly as shit, man.
I was totally unprepared for it, and when I first turned it on, you kind of see like a side profile of his head, and I went, "Does he have a fucking ponytail?"
Hmm.
And then later in the movie, specific when he has his hair down, I I was blown away. Number one, but there's a scene later in the movie where his hair is down and he's in a dark room, and you can kind of see it silhouetting his head, and the way his hair looks like stringy and the way it looks, all I could
Hmm.
think of was the Crypt Keeper.
That is very Crypt Keeper like, man. That shit was thin. And he was, that's not even his hair. He's bald. Oh, jeez. I don't know what. The thing is, Samuel Jackson has a history of having terrible hair pieces, man. And I don't know if this is the start of it.
No, Pulp Fiction is the start of it.
Nah, man. Is
That did
it?
not
Is
look
that a
good on him.
terrible? Is that a terrible hair piece? That Jerry curl?
It did
Or
not
you
look
just
good on
hating
him,
on
I'll tell you
Jerry
that
curl?
much. I'm not saying the hairpiece was bad.
Nah, because that's not terrible.
I'm just
That
okay.
one isn't horrible.
You're right. The hairpiece
If you
itself
go
isn't
down
bad.
the list,
I didn't think it looked
there,
good on him.
he's got horrible wigs. There's some hair pieces that he's done because Samuel Jackson will do any role. So there's been some roles that he's done in some movies that
What's
will
that
have you
black
questioning what
Black
the
Snake
shit.
Moan or something? Or
There's one movie that he did where he's like a British drug dealer.
oh my god, I know what you're talking about. Oh,
47 or something like that.
I wanted to say 51.
If it could be 51. I know it's
Formula 51 or something like that.
yeah, something like that. And I think his hairpiece is pretty goddamn awful in that one.
Yeah, it took me right out of it when I saw him. But then again, even when I saw De Niro, and he's got like the combed back, his hair looked so dyed, like parts of it, and he's got the mustache. I'm like, you just look like the greasiest dude that I've ever laid eyes on.
He's pretty greasy. He looked pretty greasy. He looked a really greasy dude, for sure.
And I know he's supposed to be because he's like, he just got out of prison because he was a bank robber or something. But I'm like, come on, man.
He's greasy as hell. Like you try to catch him, they'll slip right through your fingers.
Oh, good lord.
And I think I think his character. You could have. I think De Niro was just trying something different when it comes to like that character's personality. That like
I'm not putting him down or anything.
No. He's
him in the
brilliant. You can't, especially that era of De Niro. He was unstoppable.
Oh yeah.
But I think he wanted to do something different than that strong gangster, assertive. The role that he's been doing in like the last few years, right? He wanted to do something different. Like he's a criminal, so he wanted to go a different approach with it.
Yeah, and I completely.
And it's like whatever. It doesn't. It is what it is. You could completely take him out of the movie, and it wouldn't hurt or change anything really.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of odd to have an actor with the gravitas of Robert De Niro play such a second fiddle.
I feel like that type of role, if you were going to go with that type of personality, it could have been better suited for a different actor that's still as strong as De Niro.
You know who, honestly, my first thought was?
I think it was De Niro's decision to go with this character. I think he was just trying something. Just some people. I think it worked. I guess, but it didn't blow me away.
My first thought as to who could have played that same role instead of him was John Leguizamo. I think he would have done great in a role like that.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would have been a different
So
direction.
basically, like
Who
you
cares?
said, it's such a simple plot. We open up the movie, and you've got kind of the beginning characters of Sam Jackson and De Niro, but then you immediately see Pam Grier walking through the airport. She gets stopped by a police officer and Michael Keaton, who turns out to be an ATF agent, but he's playing this role like he's a rookie detective and just cocky as shit. And I love it. I'll be honest,
And
Michael
like,
Keaton was my
top,
favorite.
I love Michael Keaton.
He was my
If
favorite
Michael,
character portrayal in the movie.
if Michael Keaton's in a movie, you're gonna get an automatic letter grade bump for sure. Because what if anything, Michael Keaton brings it in almost every role he comes across. And yeah, he kind of played it like he was like coked up a little bit the whole time. I don't know if that was intentional or
You know what I
maybe
think a lot of that was? It
that
was
stuff. Maybe he's really into coffee, but he
I
seemed
think it
like
was
he was
the
fired.
I think it was
He
the
seemed like he was like
sunglasses.
good, but also dirty, or you couldn't get a read on him,
Yeah,
which
I
I
thought
think
that
that was
too.
kind of cool. You just
But
you couldn't figure him out.
I think a lot of the what you mean by like the coked up or the very intense, I think a lot of that had to do with the sunglasses that he had on the thing that he would just take off and they'd hang on his neck. The way he would pull them off his face and just kind of let them drop. I don't know what it was about that. It just there was something that it was almost like he was doing it and it said like you can tell me whatever you want, but I already know what the answer is. I just need you to confirm
Yeah,
it for me.
that and Michael Keaton is a very like physical actor. Like he definitely is animated, very animated. So I think that also adds to it as well. Like almost every role that he's in, he's kind of extra animated.
Yeah. And I will say this, now this is just me because he's Michael Keaton and I have such a love for the guy. Spoiler alert, at the end when he ends up killing Sam Jackson, when he's standing over his body and they zoom in on his face, I know the movie obviously didn't, but I said it out loud and I just went, I'm Batman.
Oh Jesus.
I, if you zoom in on Michael Keaton's face in an intense, dramatic moment, that's all I can think of.
Yeah, with those Batman intense eyes that he'd be
And
having.
that's what it was. I could see if you put the cowl on his face, he could have been looking at the Joker or Penguin. Like, just those
Yeah.
eyes, those piercing eyes. But
Kill
that
my
was,
parents.
but then I couldn't, like, as soon as I uttered it, I couldn't stop laughing because I was like, that so does not fit with what this movie is doing.
To randomly put in a movie, just randomly put that edit in a
I would love
copy.
that.
That'd be
Now,
pretty tight.
now you mentioned earlier that there was somebody that I missed in the
Yeah, you missed one of my favorite scenes.
one of your
Of my
favorite
one of my
what?
favorite like one of my favorite scenes. Even though it was like quick, just because he's only in the one goddamn scene.
I was just saying,
Like
is it
one
the
of my
part
favorite
on the
scenes.
balcony or the far away shot when he gets shot?
That whole scene, that whole dialogue with him, and then that whole scene, man. That
Now, for
entire
anybody
scene.
who hasn't watched this movie, we are referring to the one and only Mr. Chris Tucker,
Yeah.
who he kind of sets everything up because Sam Jackson gets called
Beaumont, right? He's played
Beaumont
Beaumont.
Livingston, which what a name,
He looked
but
like
but
him. He looked
that's
like a
beside the
Beaumont.
point. He sets the whole thing up because the opening scene is Sam Jackson getting a call from him in jail that he was arrested or whatever. So he needs to go bail him out of jail, and to do so, instead of just going and paying at the police station, he goes to a bail bondsman played
Yeah.
by Robert Forster.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
kind of
boy.
how this whole thing gets started, because he has to put up $10,000 to post his bond. And of course, you know that this guy just worked for Ordell, and you can see a mile away where it's going, especially when he shows up at his apartment the night that he gets out of jail. And you know that Chris Tucker is about to be killed, because you can see Sam Jackson is paranoid, and he's like, he talked, he rolled on me. They know what they like. I can't trust the guy type thing. And
If you're paying attention to the dialogue,
yes,
you know what's going to happen. But the general audience isn't really paying attention to the dialogue as much as you believe.
I mean,
So
I assumed that was going
half
to happen.
half the audience that was paying attention, yes, they knew something was going to happen to this character. The other half that wasn't, it was a bit of even though they knew something might have happened later on, in that scene, they probably wouldn't have known that something was going to happen almost immediately after or during
Well,
the scene.
so for me, it was because the opening, when you see him watching the video of the girls with the guns, and he's going through with De Niro about like what each gun is and how much he can get for them and this and that. And then as soon as he's talking with Chris Tucker, they start talking about an old charge where he got caught with guns. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly he works for Sam Jackson. And then the minute they get to his car and he's like, I need you to get in the trunk, because when we get to Koreatown, you're going to pop out and surprise them. I went, well, clearly he's just going to kill him in said trunk.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I will say I was kind of blown away by the restraint of Tarantino in this movie, especially like that scene where you watch Sam Jackson kill him, but it's from a wide bird's eye view. Like it's almost like the camera was up on like a power line, and you see it at a distance. Like typically
Yeah.
when you watch a Tarantino movie, you're expecting, and I was expecting, shootouts and blood and all this. There's very, very little of that in this movie. I mean, there
there
of the
was a
people that are
time where
of the people that are killed on screen, I think only 2 of them you really see any blood, which is something that I never would have expected out of a Tarantino movie.
well, he was subdued a little bit.
What the fuck happened?
At least the most he's ever been in this movie for sure. And even before, I guess, a certain movie came out, he was even more subdued within his own creations.
Wait, before which movie?
I would say Kill Bill was the one that like did it with like the ridiculous bloodshed.
Okay,
I think
I'm
after
gonna.
every movie after that had to have that scene where someone would get severed, their arm or whatever, and blood would just start gushing out. I can't think of a movie before Kill Bill that did that so much.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest right now, and this might shock some people or upset some people. Number one, I have never seen either Kill Bill movie.
That's terrible.
Number two, I am starting to realize that I'm not saying I dislike the guy, but I'm realizing I am not the biggest Tarantino fan. Now I say that I'm not, and I say that because I do like some of his movies. I love Pulp Fiction.
Don't say that in certain rooms. You say that in certain rooms full of cinephiles, and you're on your own. You're gonna get your ass beat. That's all I'm saying.
But see,
you know what?
my
I'm
big
a
thing
fan.
with Tarantino, and you and I discussed it a little bit off mic, is like you had mentioned, his dialogue can be a little odd and off-putting. But my biggest thing, and I realized it watching this movie, is it's not that I don't respect the man or don't think that he has talent, none of that, because I think that he is a fantastic filmmaker. However, for my personal tastes, his movies, for the most part, aside from Django, seem very disjointed. Whereas if you watch,
you like Django?
I love Django. Why?
I don't hate it, but the record number of
I know
times
that's a problem.
it makes me not want to revisit it so many times. I'll rewatch scenes, but as a whole, I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna watch this whole movie.
It almost, when you like, as much as I enjoy that movie, when you watch it, it's almost like, because I believe Tarantino wrote that too.
For sure.
Before I utter something that I shouldn't be, I'm
Oh,
gonna quickly double check. I'm almost positive he
what you
did.
gonna say?
Yes, he did. Quentin Tarantino. I honestly, I think that it's almost like he enjoys putting that word in the script.
Hell yeah,
Like this movie, it's all
dude.
the conversation alone.
Have you seen Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, but okay, even the conversation alone with Sam Jackson and Chris Tucker, that scene is what, 2 minutes? They probably each say it 30 times.
I'm talking about the lines with him that he said to himself as himself in the movie.
Oh, I know.
He didn't have to say dead N-word storage. He didn't need to say that.
No, but he chooses to.
The way he said that N-word, though, when he was saying it, you know he was loving it.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that he's racist. I'm just saying he likes to say that.
He likes
word.
the word. I honestly,
He likes the word
I think he likes the shock value of the word.
for sure. That's why
Because he is such a
crazy with Django.
He is such a
crazy.
shock filmmaker
Mm.
that it wouldn't surprise me that he puts it in there as to, oh my God, like
It's a bit of a shock. His shock is more. It is revved up since, again, Kill Bill kind of solidified that the rest of his movies and how it's going to be, at least when it comes to bloodshed. That's why I like his older work.
Well, like I said, so my issue is, I find that a lot of, and for some reason, I find that Django does follow a very linear story, for the most part through the movie. Although I find that movies like this, even Pulp Fiction, the way they're edited is it seems to me more like you're watching different vignettes as opposed to a continuous story structure. Now, I will say, so the first half of this movie, I was kind of bogged down with that editing issue. However, once you get into when they start doing the exchanges, from that point to the end of the movie, I thought it was phenomenal, absolutely fantastic, because it does follow that more linear path.
Yeah, once you get to that the whole heist exchange thing, yeah, it becomes a solid movie. But I did enjoy the first half of the movie with the editing. It clicked. It worked for me. I could see why it wouldn't for some, I guess, but it did. It worked for me. I did enjoy it, especially the one scene where you're following or Pam Greer's character, and you realize
Jackie.
Jackie, and you realize that she did take the gun out of your boy's glove box there.
Oh yeah.
And like the way that was edited, I think was perfect. Like, I mean, it's not perfect in a way that if you're going to use it, that's a perfect way to use it.
I also don't know if there needed to be a part of his character that like instantly, because you can tell he like the minute he sees her, he basically like almost like falls in love with her.
Yeah.
I don't know if that needed to be in the storyline or if he could have just been like a confidant, like you know what, like a close friend, because I feel
I,
like I don't know. I just feel like because of the way they set it up, it's like it's like he's only doing it because he wants to be with her, and then at the end of the movie, he just completely turns and he's like, "Oh yeah, I just took I just took my cut. I just whatever it is, what it is. Take care, bye." I'm
no,
like,
I get where you're coming from, but when he's introduced, this is where I guess it kind of turns into almost a different movie for me. It kind of turns into like a Western, and him being the cowboy, the sheriff that yeah, he does fall in love, at first sight with Jackie, but he also upon realizing her, her situation, he really starts to like dig her, and he really starts to wants to see her, like he sees that she is a good person even though she is a criminal, and
yeah,
he's going to do good because he is a good-hearted person at the end of the day. And he has
it's
that
funny that
he has that Western feel to me, man. Like I just feel like whenever he's on screen or whatever he's doing, it just for some reason just turns into a Western for me. I don't know if that's
he does have
intentional.
that
And
grizzled look.
there's even a scene in the movie where he watches a movie which is a Western, and it comes out of it and they're playing a Western song. So I don't know if
Yeah,
that
I will say
I if
when you say the Western thing, he does look like an old grizzled sheriff from like a Clint Eastwood
yeah,
movie or something like that.
show like he should be in the cast of Unforgiven.
Exactly. But I will say, and again, it's funny you bring up the Western thing because when he does first see her, he's just kind of sitting on a bench reading a book, and they say, "Oh, your pickup or whatever is coming out." And he looks up, and when you see, usually in a Western, when you see the lead kind of first coming to town, usually they're on a horse, but that's you don't need that. But they're coming to town and it's just the stark desert around them and they're the only thing in focus and it's kind of the same thing with her except it's all in shadow because she's coming out of prison.
Hmm.
It's kind of the same shot you would like a hero shot you would get in a Western of the main protagonist being revealed to the audience. It's just done in
Yeah,
a different way because she's coming from a dark place like a prison.
yeah, and it's set in a different time.
Well, obviously.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, this could might as well be a Western if just tweaked it a little bit.
Well, and then I mean, when you get to the end, or the not the end, but the last half of the movie, when you get into um, the money exchange that the feds are actually allowing her to go through, because I will say one thing I really did like about this, I couldn't through the movie, I had no idea what she was actually going to do because she's so convincing. Like she's telling the ATF and the federal agents, like, yeah, I'm gonna do this plan that we are concocting, and it's gonna get you're gonna get him, you're gonna get the money, and everything's gonna be squared away. Then she's telling Sam Jackson that this is how we have to do it because the feds and the cops are watching. And then she's telling Max, Robert Forster's character, this is what we're really gonna do, and then we're gonna take this $500,000 that he says he has, and we're going to give him 50 so that that's what the cops are going to catch him with, and we're going to steal the rest. I didn't know which one of those three things she was actually going to do until it happened, which I thought was a was a really good way of doing that whole section of the movie.
Yeah, she was playing all sides, but you didn't know what direction she was going into until the
And
plan
she
was
is very
pretty
good. Pam
much.
Grier is very good in this movie at building and showing tension. Because again, you
Yeah,
don't know what's going to happen at
she's
any point in
very
the
good.
movie.
And her character is very good at just like overall just like adapting to her like the situations to go the way she wants them. She's just brilliant, man. Brilliant performance, brilliant character. Yeah, man. I can't say enough about how much I enjoyed Pam Grier in this as Jackie Brown.
Yeah, she was really good. And it kind of, I feel like she should have had more of these roles coming out of this movie. I don't know. I really don't know what happened with her career after this. I didn't really look too much into it, but I think that she should have been a much more highly touted lead actress or even a main supporting actress in what she showed with this movie.
Yeah, well, she was a little bit older at the time, so there's
So
not a
what?
whole lot of there's not a whole lot of roles for aging out actresses, no matter how good you are, especially in the 90s. Like maybe
And
she didn't want to play someone's mom or someone's grandma, you know what I mean?
unfortunately, at that time, things were nowhere near as inclusive as they are nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
And
still
if she,
nowhere near where it should be, but I mean,
and again, if she was the age that she was in the 70s that she was in the 90s, she probably would have been everywhere.
or
If she would have been in this, coming out of this movie if she had been cast in that age.
I was going to cut you off and say she would have been too young for this movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? If she had a breakout movie in the same level as this at the time, if she was younger, she would have definitely have blown up and would have been in the same category as all the great black actresses of the 90s.
You know what I would have put her had it been. I mean, I would have even said she could have done it now. Like, I mean, she would have been older, I think, but I would like to, and don't get me wrong, I love Angela Bassett. I would love to see how Pam Grier would play Queen Ramonda.
It would have been okay.
I
It's
wouldn't
just
mind seeing it.
it's the accent, man. If you have to nail the accent, I
Yeah,
guess.
but you don't know how she would do with that accent. I mean,
She would have been okay. I think she would have been the same as Angela Bassett. I don't think she would have been played any better. I think it just been just different.
that's true.
But no, I love me some Angela Bassett, man. She's she's Storm. She never played Storm, but to me,
Should have.
she would have been the perfect Storm. Like
But
I'm
how
talking
pissed would you be if it was Angela Bassett
franchise
and not
soul.
Halle Berry giving that line?
I still she at least Angela Bassett would have sold it more.
Or she would have looked at the director and went, "Are you fucking
Nah,
crazy?"
yeah, hey, but if she had to say it, she would have sold it a lot better. Is all I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know if that line could even be sold by anybody, but still,
Maybe the only time you could get that line to sell is through the animation. So I mentioned,
fine.
or we already mentioned, Mr. Chris Tucker, and I mentioned earlier that 2/3 of the main cast of Friday are in this movie. And as much as I would love to say it was Ice Cube, it was not. It was
No.
Tiny Lister.
Yeah.
I won't call him anything else. I'm sorry, that's his name.
Wasn't he Goliath? Wasn't he a wrestler named Goliath?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he had a super brief stunt in WWE.
If he
in
did, I
like
don't
in
remember it.
80s. Yeah. I think his name was Goliath or something like that.
Oh, 80s? That's before my time.
Yeah, I think he like yeah, he was with Hulk Hogan in that like that cast.
Because I grew up mainly in the Attitude Era, so anything before that.
I don't know. I thought you were like a
I
story.
find a lot of the '80s WWF stuff to be boring.
My favorite wrestler, I think one of my top favorite wrestlers is definitely in the '80s, Macho Man. Macho Man. I can't say Hulk Hogan because I'm a fucking racist, so he's
I
scratched
don't
off.
like. I've never liked Hulk Hogan.
He's scratched off my list. But Macho Man,
He made me
I'm with
want to eat
Hulk.
Slim Jims.
And like when you just look and you go back to like his promos, they were just so entertaining, man.
Oh
And even
yeah.
right, and even his interviews are just brilliant, man. I adore that man. It sucks that we lost him so soon.
Well, and even he's even great in the first Spider-Man movie as Bonesaw
Yeah, he was
McGraw.
fucking Bones. Yeah, Bones, of course. Hell yeah. Man, he is such a icon to me, man. If I could
See,
meet any wrestler, it'd probably be him.
now my favorite wrestler has always been Shawn Michaels, but
Oh,
um, I will say I agree with you. I loved Macho Man, especially if you're talking about the Mega Powers. I really didn't like Hulk Hogan. I was much more of a Macho Man fan.
yeah, Macho Man he just
And then even when
had
they
it,
went
man.
to WCW and the whole NWO thing, I still liked him then. Him dropping that beautiful elbow off the top rope.
Yeah, Macho Man was he was the best, man. He was the best.
But back, we'll get try and get back to this movie. Um, no, I thought so. I think my favorite, like I said, I preferred the latter half of this movie as opposed to the beginning. Um, but one of my favorite things of this movie is when they do. So the final exchange is they set it up that Jackie is going to go with a shopping bag into a dressing room, and this shopping bag is going to have the $50,000 that she's supposedly bringing in. What they don't know is she has an additional $450,000 because the total is 500, and that she has that hidden in her airline bag under all her clothes. But because there's no reason to suspect her, the feds don't check through her whole bag. They just go through the envelope. They mark the bills of the 50,000, send her on her way. Okay, this is a go. And who's supposed to meet her there is Melanie, who's played by Bridget Fonda, who you see in the beginning. She's just basically getting stoned in Sam Jackson's apartment, and she seems like such a nothing character. And then all of a sudden, at the end, she's this main part of the plan. She shows up with De Niro, and she basically goes in, gets the bag. And this whole scene, De Niro for the whole movie leading up to this has been so laid back and just kind of loosey goosey about everything. That he is intense. When she comes out with the bag and he's like, "Give me the fucking bag, or I will fucking leave you here." Like, he's intense in this scene.
Yeah.
Especially once they, like I said, when you see people killed on screen, there's only a couple with blood. This is one of them where there is no blood because they walk outside and they're arguing back and forth, and he can't find where they parked the car, and she starts calling him old and all this other stuff, and he just turns and shoots her, puts two bullets in her, and keeps walking. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, he warned her. He said, "Say one more thing." He's like, "Say one more." He gave her the warning that you
I
say
get
one
that, but I
more
was still
thing
like,
and that shit's over.
and
And
I
she
get,
just
I know De Niro
boom.
like has played all these kinds of roles where he's the criminal, the gangster, but when he just spun on a dime and put two bullets in her and kept walking, I was like, okay.
Well, he's a guy fresh out of prison, so I think he still obviously had that prison mentality. He
And
just
very
didn't realize he
paranoid.
just and not acclimated to society. That's why he just didn't realize what the fuck he just did. Not the full scope. And
And
if
I
he did,
think
he
he's
didn't care.
also
He didn't
very
care. Like he
paranoid.
probably, yeah, and that too. It's all those things. It's still that prison mentality that he just uh, stuck with him because he's, wasn't that he's fresh out of jail. Like wasn't away from jail that long to.
I will say I did one of my favorite moments of Sam Jackson in this movie is not even an audible part. It's when they're driving and he's like, "Where's Melanie?" And he just goes, "Oh, I shot her." And Sam Jackson's face is like, "You did what?"
Yeah, whenever they're talking, they're back and forth. I really did appreciate because it's just iconic actors going back and forth, and I really appreciate that.
And I don't know if you thought of this. I thought of this immediately, but when Sam Jackson realizes that there's only the 50,000, 40,000, because I think Melanie, yeah, they say later that she stuffed a wad in her underwear. Sam Jackson tells De Niro to pull the car over, and he just shoots him. Like you don't even see the gun. It's like the gun is
It's a
sitting on
build
his
up.
leg, and he just pulls the trigger.
It's a bit of a build up. They were arguing, but yeah, he just shot him.
Oh
Like
yeah,
the
but what I'm
kills
saying
here.
is, it's like you don't
Yep.
see him lift the gun or anything like that. It's
Oh, you
just
just see the yeah.
yeah, you see that this is one of the blood. You see the blood splatter on the window. But what I found really funny is if you remember, so this is a movie where De Niro does something stupid in the lead gangster's eyes, and he gets killed for it. Do you remember what movie the two of them starred in the early '90s, where the
Goodfellas.
opposite thing happens?
It was Goodfellas, but didn't but, Pesci kill him?
Well, I'm not saying who necessarily killed him, but what I'm saying is in Goodfellas, Sam Jackson's character is killed on the order of De Niro because he fucked up. Whereas in
See,
this movie, Sam Jackson kills De Niro because in his mind he fucked up. I just kind of thought it was a funny little
all back.
coincidence.
Yeah. See,
I don't know if
I see what you're saying.
I don't know
It
if De
was
Niro did, or sorry, I don't know if
revenge, God damn it. It was revenge. Oh, you gonna kill me in this movie? Oh, okay. I'm
well,
gonna
and
stay
that's
in this
I
movie.
don't know
Kind of
if
like
Tarantino did that consciously or on purpose, or if it was just a kind of funny little coincidence.
I'm sure
But
somebody brought it to someone's attention on set and they got a laugh out of it.
I kind of thought it was amusing.
It seems like if you were done dirty in Goodfellas, you get your revenge in another movie. Is what Joey Bats got his revenge
Justice for
in another
Johnny Roast Beef, then.
movie. It's coming. It's coming. Gotta wait for it.
I think we're going to be waiting a long time for that, my friend.
But it's gonna happen. I feel it.
But I mentioned a minute ago, Tiny Lister. Um,
Debo.
do you remember a movie with him in it where he was more subdued than he is in this movie? Like
Yeah,
he is so
I
the
got one for
opposite
you.
of intense.
I got one for you. Oh, maybe Fifth Element. Was he intense in Fifth Element? Nah, he was just a boring ass fucking president. And he was the president for God's sakes.
But I mean, this movie, he's like his
He's
one
really
scene,
subdued.
he's sitting at a desk
Yeah,
answering
no,
phone calls,
yeah, he's just like there,
and his other scene
but
is
he
after they
doesn't have a whole lot of screen time. So like,
well, his other scene is after they kill Sam Jackson. They're like, we couldn't. How did you find this guy? And he just goes, I found him. That's it.
okay, this thing, it might be.
I was like, this is
Could be
motherfucking
like a
Debo.
Hey, he didn't need that many lines, I guess, to be. Maybe he couldn't. He just needed only a few, and it worked for this movie. Any more, it would have. It wasn't needed, I guess. I don't know. But hey, it's I'm glad he got some work.
Oh, I agree. I like seeing him in things. It was just kind of, it was
Sure.
one of those things where I was like, oh, interesting.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
you totally any other director would have especially then you would have played him off as like, this crazy enforcer bodyguard type,
Yeah.
this intense guy, right? But he just again, a lot of the people that you would normally think, in other roles are normally intense and aggressive and authoritative, and this one they're more subdued.
Yeah. Um, Going back to so what did you think of the way they did that whole heist thing at the end? I guess it's not a heist, but I can't think of another way to describe it because it's filmed like a heist film.
Like it's a like yeah, I guess lack of a better word, we'll go with heist. I think it was great. It was brilliant. Yeah, it definitely uh had vibes of like that Ocean's 11, especially when you see the how that second perspective
Of
of the
how they
heist.
did it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It was great. I love that, especially when they pull it off. Because a lot of the movies they pull it off for a second and then something happens, I like a good clean job. Then like that it actually the plan actually works.
Well,
And
I like that you're saying that because, and I think part of it is because I was expecting with a Tarantino movie for there to be like these big shootouts or things
could
like that.
easily have been
So
sure.
every time, like number one, I like when Pam Grier first comes out of the fitting room and she's buying that new suit or whatever, and then she's like frantically walking through the mall. Like I legitimately thought something was wrong, like something didn't go according to plan or whatever it was. But the
Yeah,
entire time she's walking, I wasn't paying attention to her. I was watching the background. Same thing with when Max grabs the shopping bag out of the dressing room with the 450,000 in it. As he's walking to his car through the store, through the parking lot, I kept looking behind him, like in the background, waiting to see like somebody pop up with a gun, or when he was like driving, I was expecting a car to come out of nowhere and just plow into him, and then like you say,
gotcha.
when all of a sudden the scene ends and I'm like, oh, they got away with it. All right. Like I was kind of shocked.
Sure, because again, another director might have slipped that in there, some type of extra tension to just add to the movie's suspense. But I appreciate that they are rooting for these characters. Like they get away with it for the most part.
Yeah, because I mean, even then you get, and then I liked the way he framed the shot when Sam Jackson calls, and he basically says like when he's threatening, like I want my money, I want her, I want this, and it's just the back of his head in a dark room. I don't know why
Yeah,
that seems so much more intense than the camera being on his face. And I wonder if it's because Sam Jackson is such a good actor that you can kind of visualize what facial expressions he would be making anyways, so you don't need to see it. But I thought that was done very well.
yeah, no, yeah. It was definitely a good choice.
And then like I said before, they show up and at Max's office, Jackie's waiting for him, and he comes in, and all of a sudden, what did she just yells like he's got a gun or something, and Batman
Yeah,
pops out and unloads 3 or 4 shots into him, and that's that.
yeah. It had to be intentional that every single kill in this movie was like kind of there was no build up. It was kind of lackluster in a way. It kind of
Yeah,
just
I found it
happened.
very anticlimactic the way that they
I
killed him.
think that had to be on purpose. There's got to be, if you dissect the scene, you could figure out But it could just be a thing where that's just how it is sometimes. Life is just that's how life is. They're
I
probably just adding some realism in a way, whereas sometimes people just get killed, and there's not have to be a build up or see it coming a mile away. It just happens.
I also wonder if there's a possibility of budgetary reasons because I mean even by 97 you think you've got Sam Jackson, Michael Keaton, De Niro, you've got all these big name actors. You've got to pay them all a decent amount of money. And if you start doing shootouts and stunts and things like that, that costs a lot of money. So I'm wondering if he kind of just did it the way he did because more of a budgetary reason. You know what I mean? Like, let's not blow our money on these big set pieces. Let's make this more a character focused movie. And like you said, just kind of have the deaths just kind of be like, yep, sometimes shit just happens.
Yeah.
Because like I said, an estimated $12 million, even in 96, 97, you're still paying these actors, I'm guessing, a decent amount of money. Now, I'm guessing Sam Jackson might have taken a bit of a discount because he had already done Pulp Fiction with him, and he knows what Tarantino was capable of at the time. So, but I mean, you still got to pay these actors a decent amount of money, and if your budget's only $12 million, I mean, you're not going to have a whole lot left after you pay them, and then you get like sets, and like, I'm pretty sure all their sets. It wouldn't surprise me if they were just actual buildings, and they just kind of paid a minimal rental fee to use them.
True. It could be that. Yeah, there's a number of reasons what kind of the violence is so subdued in this one as opposed to all his other ones. However the case may be, I enjoyed the few kills that we got in this movie. It just worked. It just worked for this particular story, this particular movie. Could you have added those things, and would it have made it better or whatever? Different, definitely different. Better, I don't know. But I just, for me, it adds to the overall how just tight this movie is, right?
Yeah,
including like the budget, the fucking the violence, everything was very very tight and used well, in my opinion.
yeah. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would say that it would make it better because, especially in that scene, it would almost feel out of place because you've gone through the
Crazy
whole movie and
shootouts,
then
everybody dying.
yeah, I think it would have just came out of nowhere. But yeah, so that's kind of the end of it. And the next scene, Jackie shows up with his car, which I don't know how that works, but I'll suspend disbelief for that one. But she shows up and gets the money and gives that little goodbye kiss to Max, and that's it. Jackie Brown is in the wind, having committed this crime, and she's going to go start her own life or start anew, I guess, somewhere else. And I can't say she doesn't deserve it for the shit that she went through. I mean, I can't imagine how terrified I would be in a situation like the ones that she's put in all through this movie.
Yeah, she earned that retirement. Definitely all the moves that she was putting in, all the moves that she made in this movie.
Yeah.
Definitely. And just,
Well,
her character, you are rooting for her pretty much the entire time.
Yeah, pretty much from start to finish. I mean, even in the beginning when she's first pulled in by the agents, it's like, yeah, she's a criminal, but at the same time, it's like you really feel for her because it almost they almost frame it like she's only doing this because she has to, as opposed to like I really support him selling illegal guns and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think if that brings us to the end of the movie, we have our categories that we've been doing. I don't personally have a favorite quote. I didn't find this to be the most quotable movie.
Could have. I had it. I had it.
I wrote one down, but I can't even remember who said it. I'm assuming because of what the third word is, it was Sam Jackson, but I'm not 100% sure. And it's just
Oh,
all those motherfuckers are crooked as a barrel of snakes. And I want to say that he was talking about the ATF.
yeah, yeah. Or like the police. So I couldn't.
Yeah. But what would you say was your favorite scene of the movie? If you had to
Definitely
pick one.
the Chris Tucker and Sam Jackson, just their engagement, them talking. It just you could tell that yeah, they had lines written for them, but it was very definitely a lot of improv there, and it it definitely felt like a real conversation just between two people. Like two
Yeah, they were
criminals,
really playing off
two
one another
scummy ass
well.
criminals. Uh, yeah, man, I love uh, Chris Tucker when he's playing it serious, but also, he's just naturally funny. And yeah, and then, Sam Jackson's just one of my favorite actors of all time. And when he's acting against other certain actors, certain other actors, it elevates it for me. And this being one of them, especially this scene, I think is definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite of the movie.
I do like that scene. I think for me, the one that kind of edges it out is after they go through with the whole, I guess, heist we've started calling it. The interrogation scene with Michael Keaton and Pam Grier, where she's smoking and he comes in and if you want an intense, coked out Michael Keaton, this is it.
Oh yeah,
Because
he's intense.
because they
He's
got
so
away. He
intense.
doesn't know what's going on, and he's ripping those sunglasses off again. He's banging on the table,
I think he's like
and
rubbing his nose too a few times too. I think he
yeah, a few
does rub his
times,
face. I think he does rub his nose.
and then
So it
and I
doesn't
mean,
help.
and you can see he does like the put like not that he has long hair, he's very short hair, but like both his hands, like he's pushing his hair back, like he's so stressed he doesn't know what he's gonna do next, and you just keep having Pam Grier telling him. She's like, I'm telling you, I gave her the bag. She took off. I don't know what happened. I will take a polygraph. I will take a lie detector. Like, they're both so intense in that scene. And
Oh yeah.
like, again, for me watching it the first time, you don't know what's going to happen because he very well could just be like, you know what? I don't want to listen to your shit. You're under arrest. Like, if
Or any other movie, he would have been working for the bad guy. He would have been dirty.
yeah,
Or one of those officers that is playing both sides or every side. You know
yeah.
what I mean? He
And
could have
that's what I mean.
easily
Like,
been.
I was waiting for him. I wasn't necessarily thinking so much the dirty thing, but I was waiting for him to be like, you know what? You had your chance. It didn't go through. You're under arrest. You're the one who's going to go down for these crimes, type thing. I just
Yeah.
thought that scene was so well done with the two of them. Just like you mentioned with the Chris Tucker and Sam Jackson scene, they play off each other so well. And I mean, that's my personal favorite scene of the movie. Who would you
Oh
give
yeah.
the best performance? I would say who would you give the best and the worst performance to?
Best has to be Samuel Jackson, just because he had to have got to have the most fun with his character, and he just ran with it. And he's the most memorable, really, aside from the lead character. So he would be my
I'd
favorite.
say he's more memorable than Pam Grier, in my opinion.
It just depends, right? It just depends on you, like if you're into strong female leads, you go more towards her. But if you're just
I
into Samuel Jackson and him being
I
Samuel
just think
Jackson,
he's more memorable because he's more intense.
he's very intense. Yeah, and that'll make you remember, especially if you're the villain. Um, so yeah, he's my favorite. Worst, I don't know. there's not a worst actor. There's one that annoys me the most, and that's Bridget Fonda.
Yeah.
But that was the role she was meant to play. It was like she was told to be an annoying ass, ditzy ass, blonde ass character that doesn't shut up and gets fucking shot randomly. So I wouldn't say she's the worst actor, the most annoying character, sure.
I think you and I are kind of in lockstep on this because that's exactly who I was going to say. And for me, the performance is honestly the scariest part of Sam Jackson as this criminal kingpin was, and it boils down to two scenes. There's no dialogue. There's no other person in the scene. It's him putting on the gloves. Both before he kills Chris Tucker and when he's planning on going to kill Jackie. When
I
he's
see what you're
just
saying.
slowly putting those gloves on and he's just kind of looking around, and you can tell right away that something's about to go down and everybody else should be somewhere else.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And yeah,
I
the
think
Bridget
even
Fonda, she's kind of a nothing part. She's literally in the movie because she's hot. Unfortunately, that's kind of what it boils down to. I mean,
yeah,
90% of the movie, she's wearing just a bikini top and smoking weed. If we're being completely honest.
yeah,
And then it comes down
true.
to, she's thrown into this plan at the last minute. Like you said, she can't keep her mouth shut. She's antagonizing De Niro, and finally, when he's had enough, her character no longer needs to exist, and he puts her to rest, and that's that for her. So I would completely agree with both of those choices. But yeah, moving. If we want to move into final thoughts, I'll let you go first. You were the one who suggested this film, and so let me. What did you think about it? What are your for this rewatch? Did you like it more than you did it when you were younger? Did you less? Well, what would you rate it?
I wouldn't say I liked it any more or any less. Pretty much the same. This is one of the movies I watch every couple of years because I really dig the story. I dig the story. I dig the characters. Everything basically works for me in this movie. Um, and it's definitely I like the lead actress. That definitely elevates a movie for me is when I can appreciate the lead actor uh, and the side characters. For me, I gotta go with I'd say this is a solid 8.5 for me.
Wow. Okay. Um. All right. So for me now, like I said,
Uh-oh.
I found the first half of this movie kind of not hard to follow, but just kind of broken up in a weird way. Um, that being said, I think the second half of the movie really saves it. And once you get through for me personally, once I got through the first half and the actual money exchange and whatnot starts happening, I was super into it. I really loved the way the tension was built. I like the character developments of most of the characters. But again, it just comes down to a lot of the Tarantino tropes that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I can also understand and respect what he does. Um, Again, like I said, this was my first watch. I would say I will watch this again. I don't know when, but I definitely would watch it again. I would recommend it. I wouldn't recommend everybody to watch it, so I'll give it more of a soft recommend. Um, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Now, I will say I was leaning more towards a 6, but after our discussion, it's kind of bumped it up a little bit. And I think we both kind of said earlier, if Michael Keaton's in it, I'm watching it. So I loved him in this movie. I loved Sam Jackson. The De Niro could have probably been played by a lot of people, but I respect him for, like you said, doing something a little bit different and going against his typical um, typical way he plays a villain. But yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, no, it's not bad at all.
So I think that's going to do it for this episode. Next week, we will be going into our final film of our underrated series, and it's fallen on me for this last one. I've been kind of hemming and hawing of what to choose for us to watch. But I have decided that we are going to watch the movie Rat Race. It's been a while since I've seen this movie. I will say that, but I remember just absolutely loving this movie, thinking it was hysterical, and I'm really excited to give it another watch and see if it holds up. I really hope it does because I don't want to waste our time watching a bad movie.
Well, I remember seeing it a few years ago. Maybe it could have been longer, to be honest.
Oh, don't talk like that.
No, it's an early 2000s comedy. So just, going with that.
Those eyes.
I wouldn't say it's the parts that made me laugh then made me laugh still after watching it so many years after. So for
Well, yeah,
me,
it's just a comedy. I'm not
it holds up
expecting
there.
I'm not expecting Shawshank here.
No. Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, because what was funny 10 years ago might not be as funny, definitely depending on the jokes, right? And I don't think there's any type of jokes that you couldn't do today. I don't think.
From
Maybe
my
some.
from my memory,
Maybe some.
from
but
my
not
memory,
to the
nothing
point.
jumps out, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
been a while.
Yeah, right. There's probably a couple that slip through. It is early 2000 comedy.
The main
Anything-
one that I remember, and I will say this before, is when they're in John Lovitz's car and his daughter tells him that she's prairie dogging it.
That's where anytime that I'm experiencing that,
That's what you think of.
I think of that scene. Because
And
I
her
never
brother,
heard of that.
her
Or
brother,
he-
like when a prairie dog sticks his head in and out of the ground.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I'm excited to watch that movie. So join us next week for us to watch 2001's Rat Race. And don't forget to give us a rating, give us a review. We'd really appreciate it. It would help the podcast grow and get us out there to more listeners. As always, give us a follow on our socials, which I will post in the episode notes. And until next time, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for listening. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace.